Alright, welcome to this series where I talk about Pokemon. Alright, let's get to it. So this time we have a Crobat. And Crobat is the 9th used mon in PokeMMO doubles in December 2021. And it had a very solid usage of 17.41, and now we're going to take a look at why. So yeah, first of all, what makes Crobat good? Well, currently, Inner Focus is a very good ability in doubles. It has two amazing traits to it. It means Crobat cannot be faked out and it cannot be intimidated. So that makes it a Tailwind user that has very serious offensive pressure on the field. Maybe like in contrast to like Whimsicott, for example, or some other Tailwinders that are asserting far less offensive pressure on the field compared to Crobat. And it's like arguably the fastest viable Pokemon in the metagame alongside Jolteon. Like there are faster Pokemon technically like Electrode or Excelgor, but they're basically never used. So it's pretty safe to say that Crobat is tied to be the fastest viable doubles metagame Pokemon. Then Crobat has actually a very diverse support move pool, which we'll take a look at in a bit. Then honestly, it has like in general like very good stats in general, and it has the quad resist to fighting attacks, which makes it a very good switch into like many of the common attackers such as Hitmontop or Mienshao or anything with a fighting attack really. But then what challenges Crobat faces? Well, its means to stop Trick Room is Taunt, which is very good, but it's usually not good enough alone to stop Trick Room. So it needs like team support in order to really prevent opposing Trick Room teams to set up Trick Room. Then it has like a slightly awkward defensive typing, I would say. It's weak to Ice, Electric, Rock, and Psychic, which are all very common offensive coverage types in the doubles metagame. And then Crobat typically has it's only using Acrobatics as its lone offensive move, so it has kind of like a mono coverage problem. Sometimes when it's facing like two mons on the field that both resist its attacks, for example, like Tyranitar and Metagross would be a very popular combination. It doesn't really have any Pokemon to really attack strongly, so it often is in a situation where it doesn't really have a target that it wants to hit. So that's kind of an issue with flying typing offensively. Then about nature and EVs. Even though Crobat has only one offensive move, then I would argue that offensive Crobat is still generally the way to go. And by offensive, I mean that you will max attack, like go for max attack EVs. So yeah, this is otherwise, if Crobat doesn't have any offensive pressure, it can be left like untouched on the field, and it just loses all its teammates in the meanwhile. So sometimes just having the offensive pressure, even by going down, is still better than to not have any offensive pressure and then have all your teammates get taken down one by one. And yeah, max speed is kind of a must, so you can make sure that you will get Tailwind up. Otherwise, you're getting risked. You risk by getting like taunted by opposing Crobats and just any Pokemon in general. So you want to be max speed so you don't run into any unwanted taunts or anything. Yeah, that's why I would argue just max speed, max attack Crobat is the most common variant, and it actually is. But some I've noticed that do play bulky Crobat, which means that they go for max speed, max HP. I'm personally not a fan of this, but I would still point out that it is an option, and some do it. Yeah, that's just my take on it. Then about the moves, I already kind of talked about them, but yeah, the two main moves that Crobat should have are Tailwind and Acrobatics. So Tailwind is basically the reason why Crobat is used. And then Acrobatics gives Crobat like a strong offensive move to pressure the opponent. But then the last two moves are very much up to debate. So Taunt is very commonly played, so you can prevent Trick Room. Or as well, you can when you have your own Tailwind up, you can use Taunt to prevent your opposing opponent to setting up their Tailwind, which can be a very useful thing. Then Protect is very useful to reposition the field. Sometimes, for example, Protect can be very useful if it's the last turn of Tailwind, and you want to make sure that you will continue your Tailwind after that. So protecting Crobat and then having the immediate Tailwind pressure is very useful. So that's why I would say that's why I would recommend Protect for Crobat. But there are other options such as Quick Guard, for example, which kind of makes Crobat a soft check to Scizor, which means Scizor can't use its Bullet Punch anymore against you. So it's kind of stuck being used Buck Bite, and depending on the Pokemon next to it, that can be like. I mean, first of all, it stops Scizor from sweeping as easily, but it still kind of forces it to just use Buck Bite, which makes it more predictable in a sense. Then items, I really only have one suggestion: just use Flying Gem to boost Acrobatics. It's very strong, and it's the only way that you will have the offensive pressure that Crobat is even used. I personally don't recommend any other item in any case, to be quite honest. Then Team Synergy, yeah, because Crobat is usually the face of a Tailwind team. You want generally fast Pokemon that can outspeed opponents in Tailwind. By fast, I don't mean necessarily like extremely fast, but you don't want like extremely slow mons either. Like they can be around middle speed Pokemon, like something like Metagross and Tyranitar, even though they're like middle speed, are perfectly good teammates for Crobat, because in Tailwind they will outspeed the vast majority of the metagame. So by fast, I mean it has to be like fast enough to outspeed the metagame in Tailwind. Otherwise Crobat is kind of a useless in its role. And yeah, you want ways to counter Trick Room. Like one of the main ways to beat Tailwind is to set up Trick Room, basically make the Tailwind go against them. So you want multiple measures to stop Trick Room rather than just having one taunt, because against any decent player, just having one taunt is not enough to stop a good Trick Room team. And then lastly, yeah, just counterplay, kind of a reverse of what I said, but yeah, to beat Crobat kind of teams, priority is very good because you don't care about their speed if you're using priority attacks. And yeah, as I said, just Trick Room Pokemon in general are very good ways to kind of beat the Crobat archetype. But yeah, as I said, have more means to just set up Trick Room on its own, like use Redirection, use Mental Herb, you know, have if you play Trick Room, have multiple ways to enforce Trick Room, and don't be one-dimensional on just like getting taunted and just losing the game for that. So yeah, but yeah, that's about it. That's Crobat, and thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.